Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Lila and I'm an alcoholic. So many people here that it's really good to see. I got a call, you can't hear me. God forbid you can't hear me. How about now? Can you hear me now? Are you sure you can hear me? I just got back from Chicago last weekend. I had an extraordinary experience. I went to the 33rd International Women's Conference, AA, in Chicago. I've been sober over 27 years, and I never knew there was something called the Women's International AA Conference. And every year it's held in a different state. This year it was in Chicago, and next year it's in Cleveland, and the following year it's in San Jose, California. And I had the opportunity on Saturday evening to speak to 2,400 women that were registered. It was powerful. I gave an extraordinary talk, and perfectly frank with you, I'm a little tired tonight. I might have just shot it all off in Chicago. It was really, really great. It was really great. I've spoken a fair amount, and God, it was really wonderful to be among that much energy. I don't know if some of the women in the room know about this thing, but we're not doing anything next year in February. They hold it in February every year in Cleveland, Ohio. I think I might go again just for myself. It's amazing to sit in a room and look at all of those people, all dressed so lovely and nice, and imagine what they were like if it were their first night in AA. I don't think it would have been as refined an occasion. I got a call just a few weeks ago from somebody that left a message on my machine wishing me a happy birthday, AA birthday, and happy 25th AA birthday. And then I knew that Lila, my namesake in AA, had 25 years. It's really good to see you, Lila. I hope your health is great this year. And Dory, I mean, we've had such good energy together. One of the great things I think about staying sober is that over the years, I get sick of people who say, where are the old timers? And, they quote statistics to you that so many % of people get drunk, and, Jesus, if you don't do this, you're going to get drunk, and if you don't do that, you're going to get drunk. And no matter what, you're probably going to get drunk. And I have to tell you something. I don't agree with those statistics at all, because I don't know what it's like for most of you, but I will tell you what my experience is. And my experience is that most of the people that I got sober with are still around. They're still here, and I run into them periodically, and I am delighted to see them. And it doesn't matter what happened over the couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 6 months, doesn't matter. What went on in their life, the fact that I can look at somebody and see them and know that I have known that person for 25, 26, 27, 20, 19 years, it's extraordinary. Extraordinary. I don't know their last names. I don't know what half these people do for a living. I don't know anything about them really, unless it's really bad news. In such case, it travels really fast, and we all know right away. But by and large, I don't know anything. I only know that whatever went on in their life, one day at a time, they stayed sober. through whatever it was, good, bad, and indifferent, and so did I. And boy, it really makes it clear to me what they told me when I got sober. I got sober at the Hole in the Ground in Huntington Park. I too, Ursula, joined Alcoholics Anonymous with alcoholic paralysis. I couldn't move actually the left side of my body, but that cleared up pretty quickly, and I was just stuck with the inability to move my head for a very long time. Probably saved my life if I had not been so physically in so much pain and so terrified that I might drink. I wasn't terrified that I might drink because I was an alcoholic. And no spiritual experience occurred for me when I joined AA. No God came out of the sky with 30,000 angels and tapped me on the shoulder. I had no spiritual experience. I stayed sober solely and went to AA only because I was afraid that I would take a drink and I just couldn't handle it at that time in my life. I was too terrified. It had stopped working for me. I couldn't get drunk when I wanted to, no matter how hard I tried. And then the couple of times that I would have some success, I would go out on a half a shot of scotch. It was a humiliation to me, almost. I was the kind of alcoholic that drank anything that was brown. If there was nothing that was brown, I drank anything that was white. If there was nothing that was white, I drank anything at all. And that's the kind of alcoholic that I was. And when I got here, they told me that I had to stay sober for the rest of my life. They weren't kind and gentle and all that kind of stuff. They told me simply that I had to stay sober for the rest of my life. How I was to do that was a day at a time. For the rest of my life. I mean, somebody told me not too long ago, if you tell newcomers that, you'll scare them. Well, then they're not desperate enough. And if they're not desperate enough, well, hell, they're probably not going to stay anyway. And besides, I have learned the hard way in AA that I can't get anybody drunk. And I can't even get them sober. Interesting. Same person told me that I talk too much about God. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's getting frightening because the longer I'm sober, the more I talk about God, not the less. The more desperate I become to know and to reconnect myself with that conscious contact. The person that was talking to me had 40 years of sobriety. The person also said to me, you know, you spend too much time talking about the 12 and 12. I thought, now that's interesting. Because since I've been 18 years sober, I can't live without the 12 and 12. I wouldn't know how. We all fit, don't we, in Alcoholics Anonymous? We all fit. We all find a way. And the only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. And I found out that the only way that I'm ever going to get drunk is if I drink. And if I don't drink for the rest of my life, well, then I'm not going to get drunk and I'm going to have to stay here. Because if I don't attend meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, you see, I'm going to get drunk. I know that. Now, when they first told me that, I didn't believe it. But I began to notice really at the beginning that there was one consistent thing about people who got drunk. One consistent thing. And I have 27 plus years of sobriety noticing the same consistent thing. They always stop going to meetings. Always. Sometimes they may attend the meetings, but they've stopped coming. No surprise to me that it's a disease of the mind. So I was the kind of individual when I got here that I was suffering from alcoholic paralysis and a bad attitude. I was dying from potential and alcoholism at exactly the same time. I was only going to stay long enough to get myself together one more time, and this time it was going to be different, and this time I knew what not to do, and I was going to get the hell out of Alcoholics Anonymous. And while I was telling myself that, the other 18 people were singing a little song too. And one of them would be saying, but you're an alcoholic. And someone else in there would say, so what? And someone else would say, well, you can die from that disease. And someone else would say, you've never worried about dying before. You've lived a year longer than you ever thought you were going to live. So what difference does dying make? And someone else would say, I kind of like it here. And someone else would beat that person up. I had all of that going on in my mind, all of it going on, all these conversations, all this buzzing, all this noise, while I sat in that chair in total, absolute pain. Now, I'm not talking about psychological, emotional pain. I'm talking about physical pain. My eyelashes hurt when I got sober. My hair hurt. I could feel it growing in my head. I perspired green. I would go home after the meetings, and everybody would have their little ice cream cake and pat me on the back and tell me, you know, keep coming back one more day, da-da-da-da-da. And I would go home, and that's when I had my worst DTs, when I first got sober. Worse than anything that ever happened to me when I was drinking. Stuff was shooting all over the room all the time. Now I know how to tell the newcomers. I mean, they're like... There weren't a lot of hospitals there and treatment centers. You know, you kind of like got in there into the hole in the ground, and they showed you where the room is where everybody else threw up, and made sure that you kind of sat on that side of the room. And everybody was moving and shaking, and stuff was going on, and they gave you this cup of coffee that knocked your teeth right out, and it told you if you smoked to smoke more, and make sure you ate a candy bar every morning when you got up, and ate the jelly donuts, and oh my God, and you know, everybody was hypoglycemic, going crazy, and we're all nuts, and they told you they couldn't die from lack of sleep, and boy, you know, I'm not sure if all that information's correct. Although I don't know any of us that died, so I mean, if I were to do now, today, all the sober things that I did to get sober at the beginning, God, I'd be hospitalized. I'd be completely hospitalized. I can't believe it. And there we all were, running around, shaking and moving, and gray figures floating around. And I used to imagine people, I used to think they were sitting beside me. There was nobody beside me. There was nobody beside me. Oh my God, what is it? And all these extra noises, and all these guys named Tex, and... You know, and they'd wear these big, huge silver buckles with stagecoaches on them, and horses, and guns, and crap like that. Big, huge buckles. I mean, flannel-type shirts, and geez, you know. And then there's this guy, Duke Carson. Well, he was a friend of the family and kind of took me under his arm, and Duke wore a suit. Wore a suit that looked like he was, you know, he lived in this suit day and night, but thought he wore a suit and a white shirt and a tie. I've never seen him without a shirt and a tie. And you know, Duke would grab me, because at that time we had to go to the meetings early. I mean, the best part of my sobriety came for the few minutes ahead of the time at the meeting, when they kind of told you what to do the day after you know, the next day. You got the message. And then you had to stay after the meeting, and you were required to stay after the meeting. You had to stay after the meeting. They closed the door. You had to stay. And then somebody brought in an ice cream cake, or they took you to some old person's house that you just watched their lips move for 30 minutes and fed you ice cream cake, or another jelly donut that was left over from the morning that they couldn't shove down some newcomer's throat. And sit you in there, and then they would talk to you about how it works. Here are the 4 things that you have to do. Don't drink. And they tell you how important that was. Don't drink, no matter what. No matter what. And then you have to go to meetings. No matter what. Oh. And then you have to read the big book. No matter what. And then you can't go anywhere you can't bring your God, even if you don't have one. Don't drink, go to meetings, read the big book, find God. Don't drink, go to meetings, read the big book, find God. Don't drink, go to meetings, read the big book, find God. That was it. Now, it came in all sorts of different words, language, and from different types of people, but basically the bottom line was, don't drink, go to meetings, read the big book, find God. That was it. When I was 18 years sober, I was in what I now feel was a spiritual soul sickness. They talk about it in the book, soul sickness. I did not know what to do. Everything on the outside seemed fine. God knows I certainly had done all the right things. Been going to all the meetings, been successful in my life, had all the stuff you're supposed to have. Everybody's patting me on the back, isn't it great, blah, 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 blah. I didn't spend enough time with the God part of it. I still believed in reward and punishment. You know, you clean up and get sober, good stuff's supposed to happen to you. God does right away, doesn't it? You get new shoes, you kind of like start feeling better. Clean up your car, suddenly you realize what color it is, and you have instant, immediate knowledge that things are getting better. Everybody goes around telling you about reward and punishment, and if you don't do this, it's going to happen to you, but if you do that, good things are going to happen. I don't know, I must have bought into that in a big way, because I went out there with all my insecurities, and just because I got sober did not mean that I changed one iota inside. All that happened to me was that I got sober. Physically, I began to change. Emotionally, I began to get more afraid. Spiritually, I didn't have a shot because I didn't have a God, and the God I had was not acceptable to me. And that was kind of what happened to me. And the only thing that was profound was that other people in that room, like Duke Carson, well, they had something I wanted. I kind of believed that if I hung around these people, then I could sort of get it too. I could kind of feel a little bit better. I would be a little less afraid. I wouldn't feel as alone. And then when I would go home after the meetings, I would wonder, do they go crazy too? Did they go crazy? I said to Duke once, I go home after the meetings, and I now have every light in the house on. I relocated all the furniture so that it was all facing the door. I had at no time ever in the first month of my sobriety did I ever take a chance that anyone was ever behind me. Never. I sat facing the direction. I sat on the toilet so that I could face the door. I lived in a complete state of paranoia, sober. That's what sober existence was like for me. I must have wanted to stay sober really bad, now that I think about it. And I said to him, all night long, they're coming to get me. And he said, it's okay, honey. You're just becoming sober. Your fears are just absolutely monumental right now because you're raw. He said, it happens to all of us. And I believed him. I believed that every other person in that meeting, when they got sober, went home, sweated like I did, shook like I did, couldn't hold anything in their hand like I could not, had complete paranoia, they were coming to get them, faced their furniture toward the door, and turned every light in their house on for 24 hours a day. I really believed that. I was shocked when I found out, maybe a year later, that that's not how it is. You see, I believe that when you first get sober, that you're under the grace of God, some kind of God. I don't know what that God is, but there's a special kind of God for babies and alcoholics. And under that grace of God, marvelous things occurred for me in my mind. I really believe that everybody went home like I went home. And if they went home like I went home and came back the next night, well, perhaps I could do it too. I also believed that everybody was as desperate as I was to find a seat in Alcoholics Anonymous and have something that they could claim was their very own. And Duke promised me that. He said, there's a seat for you in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's your seat, and no one's ever going to be able to take away from you. I have had the opportunity in my sobriety to travel throughout the world in many, many different places. And when I sit in the seat of a meeting with one person, two people, or 200 or 2,000 people, I still feel like I'm sitting in that little hard chair in the hole in the ground in Huntington Park. That's my chair. No one can ever take it away from me. It's extraordinary. All the things they told me at the beginning are more important to me now than almost they were then. Almost as they were then. Because when I turned 18 and my life was all together and something was wrong with me, I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand why I did not feel this great reality deep within. Oh, I certainly had a God by the time I was 18 years sober. My God, I think for me, I found my God through a process of substitution and redefinition, and oh God, I did everything. I think if you're sober, you're supposed to do everything. I chanted, I climbed mountains, I blew out candles, I read it all. You're supposed to do all that stuff. I use batons, I've been to therapy. If you don't do life, then why stay sober? And what does it all get down to? A search for God, a search for God, a search for God. That's all that ever meant to me. It's all that ever meant to me. And even in my own haphazard way, I'd work the steps, and I would work them whatever way I wanted to for many years because, I worked them based on how people had taught me. When I was in trouble, I'd reach for that step or this step. And every now and then I'd have like a really difficult time or a really dark period in my life, or somebody would die, or there would be great grief or great sadness. And oh God, I'd hit those books and I'd hit that 12 and 12, and I would have this resurgence of energy as I would rededicate myself to the search and to the quest and to the peace of the only place I have ever known to give me peace is a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. It opens the door to all my spiritual changes. That's what happened, because when I said, go to meetings for the rest of your life, and I started to go to meetings knowing I was going to be going to these stupid meetings for the rest of my life, I kind of like got in the program. I didn't even think not to go to meetings. They said, if you don't go to meetings, you're going to get drunk. Oh, never questioned it. Questioned everything else. Never questioned that. Never questioned that. Still don't question it to this day. I was sitting at the Normandy and Wilshire meeting on a Sunday night. I was a few months sober. I was sitting there. I felt this sense of quiet for the first time in my life. In my life, all the voices like went to sleep. They all got sober for like a split second, and they all stopped talking. And I realized I was quiet, and I realized I was safe, and I realized I had found my seat, and that things were quiet. Things were quiet. From that day forth, every time I went into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, didn't matter what was going on, as soon as I put the personalities aside and the people began to participate in the meetings, and I could keep the personalities out of there, it's been a real challenge, then I would feel some peace. I knew that for an hour and a half, nothing would happen to me. For an hour and a half, nothing would happen to me. All those old things, I suppose they're on my mind because there's nothing else to do now for me. That's how I live my life. That's exactly how I go to meetings. I don't drink, I go to meetings, I read the big book in the 12 and 12, and I practice the principles that are expressed in the 12 steps, and I don't go anywhere I can't bring my God. And I have had to change every idea I've ever had, every belief I've ever had, and everything I've ever wanted to do in my life, and review it. Because when you start to want to not go anywhere you can't bring your God, well, you know, you really have to think about where you're going, who you're with, what you're doing, and what kind of life do you really have. When I was 18 years sober and that dark period happened for me, and I went back to the beginning, and I read the book from the table of contents through the 164 pages, and I went to the 12 and 12, and I read it from the table of contents through the 12 and 12, and I thought, it's about time, Lila, that you started to work the steps in order. It's about time that you started to practice these principles in all your affairs, not talk about them, not go to meetings and discuss them, not learn about them, not intellectualize them, not even just read about them. Stop talking about them. Why don't you start practicing them? Why don't you start practicing it? And you know what? I found out the word practice is a huge big thing. It's a responsibility. It really takes effort. The practice of sobriety, the practice of the habits of sobriety. I was just lucky that in the first couple of years I was surrounded with the right group and the right people and the right things and the right everything, so on the grace of God, so that I could just practice learning to live as a sober person. But after you've done that and you're about 4, 5, 6, 7 years sober and you start doing life, I don't know what happens for you, but my self-sufficiency came back in such a gigantic way. It's lucky that I had made room for God at all. If it wasn't for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the fact that I had some ability to share with the newcomers and had always done that, I would probably have really forgotten about God. Really forgotten. So it is no surprise to me now in retrospect, the greatest gift of my sobriety is the ability to look back. And now I can see what happened to me and why when I was in that critical point of my sobriety 7 or 8 years ago, that I looked and I could not have that great reality deep within. Oh, I had God and I had angels and I had all that energy, but I did not feel it deep within me. And I heard people on AA talk about that great reality deep within, and I thought, what is wrong with me? I'm a regular attendee of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings wherever I am. I periodically read the book. I pray regularly. Why don't I feel that deep within? Why don't I sense that friend, they call God in the big book, friend, spirit of the universe? Why can't I have all of those things? And it was as if, when I asked that question one night on my knees by the bed, how can I feel this thing deep within? I don't have that. What's wrong with me? How could I be sober all these years in Alcoholics Anonymous and not have that? The critical time for me was at that moment, and I got down on my knees and I said, I don't get it. I am not happy. I don't understand my life. I'm supposed to be happy. I've got all these things that are supposed to make you happy. Half these assholes are patting me on the back and want my life. Read a magazine that says you should have this life. Then why am I alone at 3 o'clock in the morning in my bed, unhappy? And when I got down on my knees that one given night, it was as if the whole of heaven, the heavens opened up and yelled down to me, get out of the way and make room for God. Make room for God. You want to be happy? Make room for God. Oh, and I have come to find how much I had not made room for God. In such a sophisticated and subtle way, I had given my power to so many things sober. And I went back into that book and I read about powerlessness, and I realized that the big book and the 12 and 12 and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous was for the living, not for the dying. It was for the living. It was not for the people who drank. It was for the people who wanted to stay sober. It was the joy of living they talked about in there. And I thought, oh my God, how do I get that? I don't have that. My insecurities were such that they made me successful. I was driven by my insecurities. I don't deny that I'm an intelligent, bright person, but believe me, the fire on my heels was not coming from my own self-motivation and desire to do God's will. It was coming from a tremendous amount of insecurities that were pushing me forward, and I would get to the day where I would not need to be close to you at all, ever. I was going to be so self-sufficient, sober. The fantasy of my drunken dreams was coming to reality in my sober life. I had become powerless over people, places, things, money, envy, jealousy. Unbelievable what I had given power to. Sober. I was shocked when I realized how much power I had given away. Powerless. Powerless over this life that I thought was going to make it okay for me. Powerless over this relationship and all of it. Powerless. And my life had become unmanageable, sober. And I knew, and I know now what unmanageable feels like. And I began to practice, recognizing the first step in my life. Practice it. When was I giving away that power? Oh, was I shocked the day that I found out I was giving it away when I judged you. Boy, oh boy. That laid me wide open for you to judge me back and for me to accept it and feel it. Unbelievable. Powerless over judgment. Powerless over jealousy. Powerless over envy. Powerless over my anger. Powerless over the darkness. Powerless over the need for power. Powerless over my need for money. Powerless over my own ego. Powerless. Some of that is good now. I have come to find out you need a little bit of everything, but you need it in balance. When I got to the second step and realized that I had to really be restored, come back to believing that I could be restored to some sense of balance, take me back, give me some sanity, give me some peace of mind. I didn't have peace of mind. I didn't have money to buy what I wanted and no peace of mind. That's not supposed to be how it works. And I believed then that I would be restored to some sort of balance. I used to see Jules at the meeting at Sunday Noon Ohio Street, and the guy was so calm and peaceful, and kind of like he's a curmudgeon, but aside from that, he had this sense of peace about him. And I used to think, geez, I really would like that. And I've been talking to the guy now for all those 20-something years, and we've been through a lot of changes together. Our lives sort of parallel. He would say, 15 years after he does it, I do it. And it's true, that's sort of what happened, and yet he seems to have this sense of calm about almost everything. And this too shall pass, and live and let live, and easy does it, and I wanted to have that. And I knew that I could be restored to that because I had felt that in the first year of my sobriety. And even though many years had gone by, I wanted to have that back. I wanted to go back under the grace of God and not under the grace of my own self-sufficiency. I had to make that big decision again. I make it every day now, that big decision to turn my will and my life back over, my thinking. God, when I found out when I thought, it is no mistake to me that this is a disease of the mind. It is no mistake to me that I can poison my thinking and because if I may take a drink, I'm going to make that decision to take that drink stone cold sober. I don't know any member of Alcoholics Anonymous who's gone out who didn't make the decision sober. They made the decision sober. Their mind was already gone, already jaywalking its way through. So I can make a decision to stay the way I was. I could make a decision to try to fix it myself. I could make a decision to go to God and completely turn myself over and find out and have the courage to look at the fourth step and find out what is in the way. What is in the way? And I took an inventory, and I take one now that's based on today. I don't go back to the beginning and write my life story. I look and I say, what's wrong with me today? If I can't remember it, it's not bothering me. A long time since my past has bothered me, but my day can bother me. What's in the way of God? What's blocking me from getting that? Now that I've made the decision to ask for the help, what's in the way of getting the help? What's in the way of getting the help? How do I get myself out of the way? This sober person with all this information, with all these years in AA, how do I unlearn all these things I have learned and get out of the way so that I can have a sense of peace similar to what I had in the first year of my sobriety? How can I get back to live and let live? Easy does it, first things first, but for the grace of God. How can I get back under that umbrella of peace? Gotta find out what's in the way. I wrote an inventory once, there was nobody on it but me. It was profound. Profound. I found out that there's a few people on Alcoholics Anonymous that had the same pain, that had the same soul sickness, that read the book and seemed to hear the same or feel the same things that I felt. I talked to them about this thing. They said to me, yeah, I've had that too. They talk about it in the book. I said, oh yeah. And I began to see the book was for today. Not for when I was drinking, but for today. I go to the bitter end in my negativity today. It can, if I don't stop it and make the decision before I go all the way, I will be in a depression today. Talks about all that stuff in the book today. Talks about soul sickness today. So I talked to people who had this similar experience. And they said to me, you know, if you want to practice living a day at a time, you have to find out what the hell's bothering you today. It was a fantastic experience. I can't even explain what's happened in the last 8 years other than the fact that I know what's bothering me practically to the minute. I can like say, oh wow, I'm powerless, something's wrong with me, I feel unmanageable, I must be powerless over blah, blah, blah. Oh, got to get back in balance. You know, a little bit of fear, a little bit of anger, a little bit of everything is acceptable, but when I'm out of balance, when my instincts are awry, when my sexual instincts, my security instincts, or my social instincts are out of balance, when I'm letting you affect my life, and blaming you for it, something's out of balance. I've got to make a decision to get out of the way. Get out of the way. Ruth King said years and years ago, Ruth K., excuse me, every problem is a spiritual problem, thus every solution is a spiritual solution. She said it 7 years ago. I have never forgotten it. It became the sense of my life. I realized that if every problem is a spiritual problem, then I am powerless over every problem. Every problem will make me unmanageable until I decide that I must make that decision to turn that problem over, and the only way that problem is going to be solved is from a spiritual point of view, and I cannot do that by myself anymore, and I don't want to do that by myself, and I don't do it as well as when God and I do it together. So I have to say to myself, what is in the way? Talk to somebody who can say specifically, this is what's in the way, Lila. You were a creep. You shouldn't have done that. Oh, yeah. Why did I do that? Did it again. Did it again. No, you didn't just do it again. You've been thinking about it for a week. Okay. It's been building up. It's been coming. And then I can be willing to be entirely ready. Because I can actually now say to myself, For a week you've been doing this. And you know what? It's okay. Because I'm just a human being trying the best I can, and I love myself anyway, even when I'm a creep. It took me 7 years to learn to love myself when I was a creep. And accept myself, no matter what kind of thinking I have or no matter what happens to me. Accept myself for judging you, accept myself for judging me. Doesn't make any difference. And when I found out that I could become entirely ready if I accepted myself, it was so easy to say, help me, and kick in that 7th step. I found out about the 7th step that if I make room and I feel unmanageable and I believe that I can be restored and I make the decision to ask for help and I find out what the hell I'm doing wrong and I talk to somebody to make sure I can be specific about that, not a general huge giant thing, and I can say, gee, this thing is out of balance again. I don't care though. I love myself anyway. I accept that I'm that way, so this is the way I am. I'm still the best me I've ever been. Automatically, the 7th step just rushes into my life, rushes in. And as I began to practice that stuff, it started to rush in. And you know when it started to rush in, I started to feel something deep within me. And if in the time that I was being a little creep and that week that I was doing whatever I was doing, I hurt anybody along the way, well, hell, I'd go out there and make an amend readily. But most of the time, well, I didn't really harm you that much, unless I took your time or your energy or stole your emotional space. Most of the time what I did is I have to amend my own thinking and say, Lila, it's your thinking. You're killing yourself. It's your fear. You're killing yourself. It's your worry. You're worried. What business do I have to worry about the results that are up to my God? Haven't I learned by now, forget results? It's not my job to worry about the results of my life. When am I going to? Where am I going to? When is it going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. None of my business. For 18 years, I made finding the answer my business. It almost spiritually killed me. For the last 7 years, I have made the question my business. The question that I bring to my God. The question. On the 11th step, when I go to sleep at night or before I go to sleep, all right, dear Great Spirit, and I date it, 2/21/1997. What do I do about this? How do I handle this? What, when, where, how, why? Will I, should I, can I? Do you think it's time? I ask about everything. I ask about monumental problems and I ask about the most insignificant thing you can think of. I ask everything. I put everything that troubles me in the form of a question. I write it down, the question. I say, thank you for my sobriety. Help me to maintain it. I need and love you. Lila, scrunch it up and throw it in the trash. I go to sleep. And I expect a miracle. I've had them. I'm used to them. Miracle, if a miracle is a change in perception, then I've had 1,000,000 miracles since I've been on AA. And I'm asleep. I expect that whoever has gone on before me, this is my spiritual thing, well, they're going to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, listen, to the answer to your question, or you need more information, and I'm going to get all the knowledge that I could possibly require while I'm asleep. And if it doesn't come while I'm asleep, if they don't teach me, if the angels don't come and dance around the room or whatever, then when I go out the next morning, I expect that I'm going to run into one of you and you're going to tell me. Or I expect that I'm going to read the paper and it will be there. I believe in miracles. I expect them. I expect that answer. It's happened to me so repeatedly in the last number of years that I don't know how not to expect the answer. And my God has never disappointed me. I expect an answer. My job is to get the hell out of the way so that when the answer is there, I notice it. And if I'm worried and I'm troubled and I'm trying to figure it all out and I'm worrying whether I'm going to live or I'm going to die, whether I'm going to have enough money or I'm not going to have enough money, whether my nephew's going to live or he's going to die, whether this is going to happen or that's going to happen, you know what? That answer is going to knock on the door and I'm going to not hear it. I have been promised the answer. In the big book, they talk about the inability to receive. We run around AA, give. I gave, almost killed myself. Receive. Do you know how hard it is to receive? It requires doing nothing. The most spiritually profound thing I've ever done is nothing. 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 Pray and get out of the way. I'm getting bored with drunkalogs, especially my own. I want to hear about how to live sober. When I talk now, that's what I'm going to talk about. People don't want to hear it, they'll stop asking me to talk. I'll talk to somebody else. Doesn't matter to me. I have had a spiritual awakening as a result of working these steps in order. Every day, many times a day. I believe to pray is to ask, and to meditate is to make room for the answer. It requires the kind of meditation that can happen in a minute. I have to do all of those steps by the time the guy cuts me off and I choose to kill him. That's the 10th step for me. Quick. I'm powerless over the son of a bitch. I'm going to kill him. I better be restored to some sense of balance, because right now my wheel is shaking in the car. I'm going to turn this over right now because I'm out of control. I'm disconnected from my God. What is wrong with you, Lila? Well, damn it, I'm late and a lot of other things are happening. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, God, I accept that I screwed up. I got up too late. I didn't plan, blah, 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 blah. But so what? I'm a wreck. Please help me. 7th step. Please help me. Please help me. Please help me. Please help me. Enough please help me. The guy's gone. And then I have to say, I wish that son of a bitch all the health, happiness, and prosperity that I wish for myself. Then I'm back to 10, and I can say, okay, what do I need to do to calm down? How am I really going to handle the situation that I'm driving to that's got me uncomfortable? What's really wrong with me? What do I do about this? Is it time to do that? Should I approach it this way? What do you think? And 1,000 questions come into my mind. 1,000 questions come into my mind. And I stop all my own response. And I have another spiritual awakening in the car as a result of those steps. And I have a little moment of peace, and I get calm, and I believe that I have been restored to some sort of balance, and that things are going to be okay. And that if I just go there and not worry about how it's going to work out and what the results are going to be, and I put one foot in front of the other and show up, that it will be fine. And that in front of me will be a cast of thousands from the spiritual universe that I believe in, and there'll be 1,000 behind me, and everything that I need will be presented to me, and I will be fine, because there is absolute perfect order in my God's world. It is no negativity. Everything's perfect. And when I go there, the answer will reveal itself. I just have to go saying, how do I do this to make it be of service to myself and service to other people, and do the best job that I can possibly do right now? Now, I don't know about you, but that's a spiritual awakening for me, to even be willing to think like that. To get out of my car, dust myself off, go in there, and just go in like another person. Not the way I did a few years ago, with a cast of thousands out of a giant limousine. Power, 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 power. It worked, let me tell you. People like that crap. Not anymore. I stepped off that world because I was dying. All the power I need now is deep within me. I was sitting in a meeting not too long ago. Cubby Selby said, I don't pray to God, I pray from God. I started to burst into tears in the meeting. From God. I realized I'm praying from God. I have it. I have a deep reality deep within. I got it. I got it. I got it through the steps of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have had a spiritual awakening as a result of what? The steps. Not the meetings, not the people, not the book, not the bullshit. All that is just keeps me here. All that stuff just keeps me here. I have had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. By myself, with my God. Thank you for all the help, but the bottom line is, I did it with my God. If it hadn't been for you, I would have died, and I would have been a drunk, and I probably would have lived a long time as a drunk, but I wouldn't have gotten it. And in AA, I would have had some sort of peace, and I would have been depending on you. But you know what? It didn't happen for me till I did the steps, till I made them my own, till I wore them, till I understood that stuff, till I listened to what you said and said, yes, does that apply to me? As a result of these steps. And it says it carried this message. What message? Not my drunkalogue, not all this wonderful shit that happened to me. It says carried this message to alcoholics. The message for me is simple. It's getting simpler every day. The message is, I figured out how to work these steps for me. They change every day. I could give you a whole new talk next year. It'll be all different, but one thing will be the same. I'll be working the steps. I'll be figuring out a new way. I'll be getting a deeper sense of that God. That's my message. Practice these principles in all your affairs. What principles? The steps. The guy cut me off. I'm powerless. I mean, that's my life. I practice the steps in all my affairs. They have become the principles of my life. My life is easier. My life is more comfortable. My life is far from perfect because half the time I take it right back. They used to say, turn it over, turn it over, turn it over, turn it over. I don't know when you got sober, but I heard it a lot. Turn it over. You don't have to wait 18 years to find out how to turn it over. And then you don't have to wait 7 years to find out that God readily takes it. I live in the question of life. Everything is a question. I could care less about the results. I don't know if you know what that means for someone like me. But I was that kind of person that had to know. I had to know. When I was drinking, I had to know where all the booze was coming from. I have never related to the alcoholic who didn't know where their next drink was coming from. How fucking stupid to not know where your next drink is coming from. If you're an alcoholic, how can you not know where your next drink is coming from? If you're a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, how can you not know where your next prayer is coming from? How can you not know where your next miracle is coming from? How can you not expect a miracle? I live in expectations of miracles all the time. I don't care if I have good days or bad days. At the end of the day, I will have experienced a miracle. I am now in the practice in my life of noticing my miracles. I've seen yours for 27 years. I look at you, Dory, and I know what it feels like to have a miracle. I know we're sober and that we made it. I look at Lila and I see her go through all sorts of things, and my heart goes out, and we made it. I look at my friends that I'm getting to know better, and I like them. That's a big deal. I see people that I know go out of their way to work with 12-step, go out of their way, beyond the call. I see Frances give her time at these kind of meetings. I mean, I see all of these things. I expect that I can count on you. Can I count on me to get out of the way and make room for God? It's going to be a lifelong journey, and I'm glad to share it with you. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.